Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel and welcome to yet another national final tier list for the Eurovision season of 2025. In today's video I'm focusing on the country of Iceland, up north with the selection of Söngvakeppnin 2025. It's always difficult to, really get into how to call the different national finals all around the world, or all around Europe I suppose. The Icelandic one, of course, not really being much different there. And it goes a step further, of course, because all of the songs in this selection are in Icelandic. Most of them also have an English version. That's how they do things up in Iceland, that you get to hear the songs in Icelandic and then majority of them as well in English if the artists decide to do it that way and they want to showcase an English version of the song, which I think is really cool. I really appreciate that way of just presenting the songs because it just adds an extra layer of it. Of course, like me as a listener and everyone else, we have to listen to two versions of the same song, and then sometimes you don't really have a preference between the two. That's usually the case for me, but sometimes you really do, and you could get disappointed when they end up sending the wrong version of the song that you like, based on your preference, of course. But in this case, 8 of the 10 songs do have an English title as well, so you need to listen to two versions of the song, so it's taken a little bit of extra time for me to really get through the selection. But I've got to say, I've been kind of enjoying it. Like, half of the selection I would say is kind of, I wouldn't say disposable, but half of the selection is less interesting to me. But there are a few standouts in here that I would be kind of excited to see at Eurovision, which I gotta say is probably a step up from what I'm used to from this selection. It usually doesn't stick with me that much, but of course things can change when we see the live performances of these songs. Hoping for a good show, of course, as with every selection. I hope everything's just gonna be fantastic. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Regardless, the 10 songs in front of me, I've sorted them out based on alphabetical order, based on the song title in Icelandic, I think, or maybe it's... No, it's not even in order for anything. Sorry, no, it's not in order of anything. This is the order that they were on the album, I think, that was released on Spotify, because all of these songs are on the same Spotify album, and I'm pretty sure that's the order that I've decided to sort them in here. So no alphabetical thing, I'm just talking nonsense. Anyway, the 10 songs are here. I got 7 tiers from S to F, and I will be placing them out where I think they fit, based on my preference, and please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments as well, where you would put these songs. But I will get right to it, and I will start with Aðeins, lengur by Bjarni Arason. This is going to be a difficult one to go through all of these songs, of course, in the Icelandic titles. I'm going to struggle. Hopefully you don't mind. Maybe most of you would struggle equally as much as me. Maybe. Anyway, Aðeins, lengur here does not have an English version. This is one of the 2 songs that is solely in Icelandic. And I think that's kind of neat, to be completely honest. Like, they've definitely hammered down that they want this song to be in Icelandic, and that feels a bit authentic, so that's nice. And really, perhaps I should be very charmed by something that's clearly very, very old-fashioned, as this song is, but like it gives me a little bit of a nostalgia vibe back to a lot of the songs from the 80s or the 90s in Eurovision, but not the standout songs from these years, because, I mean, the 90s in particular is my favorite Eurovision decade for sure. The 80s had a lot of strong songs as well, but it also had a lot of songs that kind of felt within the same vibe of this one. It does feel very old-fashioned in that regard, and I don't think this would have left much of an impression even back then. I don't think it's emotionally poignant enough, even though it kind of sets out to be somewhat. Vocally, sure, it's sweet for sure, and it could come across as very sincere, but ultimately I find this one to be a bit flat and uninspired in its execution. I don't think it really brings anything new, and really feels kind of like a subpar effort of many ballads that we really heard in Eurovision around 40 years ago. And that could absolutely be pleasant for some, maybe it should even be pleasant for me, but as I said, I think it would have been among the weaker efforts back then as well, which is what holds it back here. I absolutely think there should be a place for songs like this to be in the competition, but unfortunately I'm underwhelmed by this particular one. I'm placing this one in the E tier. I'm happy that it's here, but it's simply not for me, and yeah, that's all there is to it at the moment. Next up is Júlí og Dísa with Eldur, or Fire in English, and this one's so up my alley, I gotta be honest. I think this has a lovely chorus. It hits really hard, great dynamics throughout this song. The choruses go very, very satisfactory in terms of their execution, I'd say. There is a lot of convincing energy within this song, I would say. It's memorable, sing-along friendly, and very, very engaging to me, at least. Tons of fun to listen to, really. I tap my foot. I think it's a catchy chorus. You could sing along to it even though you don't know Icelandic, because it's so straight to the point and effective. I'm expecting probably they will go for the English version if they end up winning, which I'm not sure what their chances are. But I wouldn't really mind that. I mean, I think maybe the Icelandic version makes the song a little bit more special, at least for me. But if they want to go for English here, that's fine too, really. I think that's an effective pop tune, and I'm fond of both of these versions. I think this is a great little listen. Gets me engaged to it for sure, and highly energetic, very catchy and memorable. I'm placing this one in the A tier. I'm actually stretching as far to say as that I'm rooting for it. I hope it's going to be just fantastic live, but we'll see. I'm hoping that it will be anyway. Next up is Ágúst with Eins og þú, which I guess translates to Like You, because that's the English title. This is quite an accessible little tune, I'd say. Melodically, it's kind of memorable, I would say, and it's pleasant enough altogether. I don't think maybe like the sound design is particularly convincing here. It feels a bit on the formulaic and predictable side in terms of its actual arrangement here. The choruses, I don't really think that they develop too much in terms of the engagement that they have on the listener, and energetically, I'd say this song is quite restrained as well, which could be definitely a little bit underwhelming, I'd say. I think it's fine altogether. It's a solid little effort. Not sure how many people will really remember it once you've heard all of the 10 songs, but I think it just kind of fits a purpose in here. It's just decent enough all around, and I'm placing this one in the C tier. I think it's fine. I'm enjoying it. It's not something that I would go out of my way to just skip. I'm satisfied with it. It doesn't leave too much of an impression on me, but it's fine for what it is while I'm listening to it. Next up is Birgo with flýg í storminn, or Stormchaser, which is quite the effective tune, really. I think this one could probably hit a lot of people quite well. It's got some energy to it, some rather like epic grand details in the arrangement. I think the approach of it has this kind of epic quality to it that really tries to be noteworthy and attention-grabbing and quite compelling, which is nice. The bridges are just kind of huge, really, in terms of their execution. Melodically, it sticks as well in that regard. There's a wide instrumentation supporting it all, which is quite nice. I think it could be very, very effective. I think that, personally, I would have preferred if they did a little more of playful more playful things in the detailing of the track, because I feel like it's a bit bare bones in that regard. And I'd probably say that the production leaves a little bit to be desired as well. It's very reminiscent of like a 2013 era progressive house chorus, which, you know, it's charming to me, but ultimately maybe it's not very impressive when it comes to being in the 2025 standards of everything. I think it could have probably had a different approach in its polish there. I'd say that Icelandic sounds quite pretty in this one for sure, but I probably prefer this in English, to be completely honest. It just has something more memorable about it when it's in English, for me anyway. I haven't really, I don't mind whichever way they go, but it's just something that stuck with me, because usually I don't prefer the English versions, but I think they got this one pretty well executed. I'm placing this one in the B tier. I think it's a strong effort. I would have probably liked some things to be adjusted about it in terms of mainly detailing, I'd say. But it's nice enough. It has the composition nailed down, and it's effective in that regard for sure. Next up is Stebbi with Frelsið, Mitt. In English that would be Set Me Free, and it's a rock song. It's the rock song in the selection, really. And for being the rock song, I'm left with a few things that I think I would have really desired for this to have, and it's mainly more distortion, more drive in those guitars. Like, the song isn't really punchy enough to warrant being this kind of aggressive tune within the selection. I think the verses are quite draggy, in all honesty. They don't really contribute that energy that I think they should. I get that it could be a way of really establishing dynamic to the choruses, but I don't think the choruses really elevate the song enough and have that drive to really kick the song into gear. It's also a very repetitive chorus, quite monotonous in that regard as well. Somehow I think it feels a little less repetitive in Icelandic, maybe because you just don't really have the association with the actual lyrical side of things there. But overall, I think it's quite an underwhelming listen, really. Hopefully it's going to be superb live and really like with the right energy being presented in a performance and with the show. And that could really detract the disappointments that I'm feeling towards the song at the moment. But as it stands, I'm kind of left with a lot to be desired from it. I think it's nice to have the song in the selection. It stands out and it has some redeeming qualities. I'm placing this one in the D tier, and I'm hoping that I will change my mind on it as I move on or as I see it being performed. Next up is Flugdrekar, or Carousel by Dagur. And this one, I have to be honest, it has not left a huge impression on me musically. Vocally, it tries to do a lot, and I think maybe we should admire that, or appreciate that, I guess. But it's quite a slow one to get through otherwise, I would say. It trundles on, a very pedestrian manner in its progression. It could absolutely come to life with a good performance, but the studio cut is quite flat to me in both languages, I would say. This one passes me by. Vocally, it has something kind of stand out about it. Whether that's a good or bad thing, you be the judge. I think the vocals are quite divisive, like the style of them, but it absolutely has an ambition there. Musically, I think the ambition is a bit lacking. I'm placing this one in the E tier, a little bit underwhelmed by this one as well. Moving on to Northern Lights, or Norðurljós by Bia. I have no idea how to put it. BIA or Bia, or I don't know. But anyway, this one has like it's really neat melodically, I would say. I think that's probably the standout part of this song. It has something in the composition that just feels rewarding and quite light and chirpy in it. Some ground percussion really tries to build momentum in this song quite effectively as well. Energetically, I'm not sure if it's the most compelling, at least not to me. I'm not feeling like I'm very hooked by it, but like there's a pretty composition behind it nonetheless, and vocally it sounds quite promising to my ears as well. I think there's a lot of things to kind of potentially get excited about with this song, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they will do with it. At the moment, it's not one that really sticks with me massively, but it's also at the same time something that piques my interest, something that I find to be very, very solid all around. So I'm placing this one in the C tier. I'd probably also prefer it over Ágúst here, so I'm placing Bia above. Usually I don't really order them within the tiers, but when I feel like I prefer one or the other by like a little margin, then I will sort them like this. So yeah, that's how it looks for now. Next up is Bára Katrín, which in Swedish would mean only Katrín. I'm not sure if that's that's what it's supposed to be. It's probably a full name, but anyway, the song is called Rísum upp, which means rise above. For me, this one really feels like it's here to make up the numbers, unfortunately. Vocally, decent for sure. It has something in there, and it's not really like taking up a spot from something else. I feel it definitely has a purpose of being here, but at the same time, I don't think musically the song does enough to really warrant kind of grabbing my interest. It's I think probably like the main thing is that there's not a lot of substance within this track for me. The chorus has an elevation for sure, but it's quite a monotonous one. It's not as exciting as I probably would have wanted it to be. Melodically, quite a letdown really in my book. And instrumentally, I find this one to be very, very pedestrian in all honesty. That's probably the main thing. It doesn't have that compelling energy to it or engagement that I'm looking for. I'm placing this one in the E tier as well. I don't really have a preference between these three down here. I'd probably prefer the Bjarni song here, but the other two are just kind of interchangeable, of not leaving much of an impression on me. Still in the E tier. It's not awful, but it's just not for me, I guess. Next up is Web with Rua. And this is the other song that's only in Icelandic, and it's certainly a standout in the selection. I remember these two guys from, I think it was last year or maybe 2 years ago. Quite an energetic duo on stage, which I'm looking forward to. Like, you could definitely imagine that when you listen to this song. This is very careless, it's very energetic, it's just focused on being fun and enjoyable and all-out energy and kind of chaotic in a way. And I can approve of that. I'm having fun with it as well. I think the high energy is tangible and gets me invested in the track. The vocal arrangement is purely chaotic. It's all over the place in a very kind of carefully, like you could either be, it's a divisive way really, like either it's too much for some and it's very, very fun for others, and I would understand both sides of this. This chaos is kind of like matched by this instrumental pulse that's definitely going all out throughout the song. I don't think this song is particularly intriguing, but it's a very, very fun time for me. I'm placing this one in the B tier. I think it's quite a neat little addition. If this one ends up going to Eurovision, I think people will remember it, so maybe it's one to go for, even though I would prefer Eldur up there in the A category. And finally, we got Words or Thra by Tinna. The final song in the selection, at least based on the album order or whatever you say. This one kind of hits me, you know. I think that I'm definitely like the audience for this. It's you know, guitar based, which usually works for me. I think there's some neat guitar work in this song. I like the punch of the backing track. The percussion is very dominant in this song and really pushes it forward. It's very characteristic in that regard, and some strong energy within the song. Really enjoyable listen for me altogether. I find there to be very little things that I think it should have done differently. Perhaps it's not the most memorable either in terms of melody and in terms of actual impact, but it's definitely an engaging listen for what it is during those 3 minutes, and I definitely could see myself returning to this one quite a bit, and I'm also very, very excited to see what they will do with this, because I think it could be a standout if they get the performance just right and if they're convincing with the show. I'm placing this one in the B tier, top of B tier for me on this one, because it is my favorite among those, but I definitely think that I prefer Eldur or Fire from this selection. I think that's absolutely the standout that I'm definitely rooting for. But that's just my take. Which song are you rooting for in Söngvakeppnin here? Please let me know. Are you excited about the selection or are you underwhelmed? You can also let me know that. Usually I don't see a lot of excitement or hype regarding this selection, but I gotta say I was quite invested into it when I listened to the album here for this selection. I think there are a few good songs in here, and if they send Eldur, I will be a happy man. Granted, like it absolutely has to have a good performance though, of course. But yeah, that's my tier list. Please share what yours would look like in the comments if you feel like it. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you again very, very soon. Thank you for watching this video. Take care and bye-bye.